Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. Our guests this evening, Finisterre and Cladius, Emmanuel, commentators, analysts of cricket, and we've been discussing West Indies cricket. I asked a question about Alan Stanford. Before I move on to something else, let me get a response from you guys in terms of his contribution to West Indies cricket.
Wow. Yeah, Alan Stanford. Good intentions, and obviously it assisted cricket because it created an opportunity for the guys to play. It provided huge incentives. That was a great pull for the guys, but big question marks over the morality of the funding, and as you know, it's part of an ongoing legal process. So a negative there, big negative, obviously. And so, but in terms of providing an opportunity for the guys to play and to hone their skills, certainly a good innovation. And I think what it did was to influence stuff like the IPL. And so from that point of view, it was a positive, but clearly the means that was used to make that investment and to create the opportunity for, although it was a good thing to have guys playing, but clearly the wrong road taken.
But it also exposed a lot of the guys. I mean, Sammy for one. You have a lot of the players from the Windward Islands were exposed. Even Sunil Narayan. I mean, we talk about Sunil Narayan, and he's a world-class bowler right now, but he was only exposed through the IPL and their ability, Trinidad, to get into the Champions League and stuff, and then that's where they really picked him up, and he is playing, with that Indian team, mystery bowler, fantastic bowler, called to bowl spin at the death for West Indies, when traditionally we have been a fast bowling team, a pace team. That's what we've made our bread and butter on, pace. But now we have more spinners than anything else. You could count the number of fast bowlers now on one hand.
Again, it comes back to the nature of the game, though, because a lot of people, for instance, during the tournament were calling out for faster bowlers to come on, and they want more pace, and people keep talking about the likes of Fidel Edwards and speed. You saw how Malinga got treated in the final. That is how a fast man gets treated, especially if he's not spot on. I mean, Malinga was pretty much spot on. It's just that Marlon
was spot on.
but
he got the spot.
Fidel is fast, but Fidel is not the most accurate of bowlers. I don't think anybody would dispute the fact that Fidel Edwards is not exactly a wicket-to-wicket bowler. Once you get bat on ball for a guy we saw it with Rampal in the latter overs against Sri Lanka. Once you coming down that quickly and you get back to ball, once you stray off line or length, you get the treatment. In this format of the game, you're going to get the treatment. If you are a spinner, if you are a medium pacer like Darren, and we saw Darren coming in and bowl 2 excellent overs in the final. If you are going to come, and in fact his career economy rate is just 5 point something, or about six runs per over, something like that. I can't recall off the top of my head, but these guys are harder to get off the square. For you to hit Darren Sammy, you have to apply yourself to get a 4 or 6.
Now you saw that with Marlon Samuels, how he got out.
Marlon Samuels,
because I mean, he was going great guns, and then he had to generate the pace off that slow bowling, and he just could not clear that boundary, which he wanted to do straight to the fielder.
Actually, 6.68 Darren Sammy.
He had to go
economy.
The ball was a little bit wide. He had to go. But just a point on Sunil Narayan. Let's not forget those 2 overs that he bowled against. Was it New Zealand just before the super over? Overs number 17 and 18. I think that's when Ross Taylor was going great guns. Really should have brought his team home. But those 2 overs from Narayan, I think, considered 5 runs, and he picked up 2 wickets. I think Oram and Taylor. So very important, the role of Narayan. Of course, he has to improve his fielding, which is
I saw in that final Darren, shot who offers, but Marlon's bowling. Yes.
Yeah.
Dive,
Yeah.
dive.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
Yes.
you just couldn't believe that there was no dive.
giving up 3
I mean,
runs
it was like
when it should be a
wasn't
single.
it was really egregious in the
semi-finals.
in the last Super 8 game against New Zealand. His fielding, and he had to be taken off and replaced with Dwayne Smith.
Yeah.
But his fielding was horrid in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the ball was going through him in the last over.
He gave up 5 runs. He gave up 5 runs, 2 boundaries when he should have limited them to 2, and also that misfield where he gave up a run or 2 runs when it was supposed to be.
His fielding gave up everything that he
and he's
got.
just so calm.
Everything
about
he got, everything he gave the West Indies in terms of his bowling, he gave back to the opposition in terms of his fielding.
Let's take this final call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening to all.
Good evening.
A very good program. I think all of you look very sharp. I just want to point out something. What impressed me the most with this tournament was the fact that West Indies, unlike Australia, everybody involved contributed. It wasn't dominated. The West Indies team was not dominated by one individual like Australia. Watson almost dominated the tournament outside of the rest of the Australian team. And I did point that out early in the tournament when people were saying that Sri Lanka was a better team and Australia and so-and-so was a better team. And I keep on saying that even if Gale did not perform, we still had a good chance of winning the tournament because everybody contributed. And one of the things that came out is that you would see, despite the fact that Narayan did not top the wicket, he was the most economical bowler in the tournament. He went below 6. He's the only bowler, and I don't know if Claudius and the rest have looked at the stack after the tournament, but you would notice that in there, he is the only bowler that went below 6 runs and over. His economy rate was below 6.
I think Badri was also low as well.
And he did not take, he took 9 wickets, I think. And Rampal also took 9 wickets, and you saw Gale, I think at number 4, Samuel somewhere at number 6, thereabout. But everybody in the West Indies came together and they produced. Even Sami got 4 wickets, I think, and he has a strike rate of over 100. He did score a few runs as well. So that is what impressed me the most. It's like in the past, we would see we would go into a tournament, or we would play a series, and one batsman would dominate the series, and yet we would get beaten very badly. So it shows that the team has grown, and we have a lot more talent than what we had in the past. And I'm very, very excited and elated by what has happened, and I'm hoping that this is going to be something that is going to carry us through even for greater things in the future. And I want to say big up to all you guys as well and the West Indies team.
Thank you very
Have
much.
a good night.
Yes.
Yeah, good point. He was right on the ball, except when he suggested we have more talent. I'm not quite sure. I think we've always had talent, but I think now the talent is beginning to produce, and as he said, produce in multiple ways. Different guys contributing in games.
Yes, I think there's better application now. You know, the talent is being applied, and
fitness helps.
Of course, fitness. When you're in sports, fitness always helps. You know, because when you're struggling in those closing moments of a game, fitness is what will carry you over the line. Yeah. You know, without that fitness, then you'd be what West Indies was 1 year before today.
Yeah, there were moments in this tournament where I thought that the West Indies 2 or 3 years ago would just have crumbled.
Oh yes. Even in the final.
The super over, the super over, and even approaching the death against New Zealand. The final, absolutely. Even the early overs against Australia. I thought there was several times that the West Indies would traditionally have just hung their head. Once you see, 2 or 3 years ago, and hopefully when we say 2 or 3 years ago, we mean 2 or 3 years ago and that's done, not 2 or 3 years ago and we'll see it popping up again. Yeah. But you would have just seen you lose a wicket, you know, you go in great guns and then you lose a wicket, all of a sudden you see 2 or 3 wickets tumble, and that's the end of it. You know, people have spoken about how Sri Lanka, for instance, in their semi-final, really built up an innings after looking as though they were in terrible straits. You know, they looked as though they were going to be dead in the water.
They really look good. I mean, Sri Lanka really looked good in that tournament. I was very impressed, and that young guy, I can't remember his name, that 19-year-old.
Dhananjaya.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, it was all about their application and their spirit and their ability to rescue a game from just about any point. Unfortunately, they met the team that, at least on this occasion, was more able to rescue a game than them.
No, go ahead.
And you're talking about contributions from different people. Yes, we finally got a settled team towards the end, but there were a lot of guys in there who made a difference to the team. Johnson Charles, I mean, Chris Gayle is the big personality and the big guy, the big name in world cricket. But beyond Chris Gayle, I mean, Marlon Samuels was absolutely electric throughout this tournament. I thought he was probably the second best pick for player of the tournament behind Watson. You had, even in the final when Samuels indubitably was the man of the match, Darren Sammy was crucial in that match with 2 fine overs, with some excellent fielding, great captaincy, and with 26 crucial runs that really gave us the platform to defend. Sunil Narayan was tremendous throughout this tournament. Badri, who has the world record for the lowest, except for his fielding. Even his batting, I mean, he came in and lashed a couple of quick ones. Badri, who has the world record for the lowest T20 economy, he had a fine tournament again, the bowled at 5.56. You can't want better than that in a T20.
Final words, Claudius, as we wrap up.
No, great performance by the West Indies. A good time for people to enjoy the results. We have been long suffering, and it's nice to see a good result. Kudos to Sammy and all the management team, and let's hope that we can see that being leveraged into the other formats, the 50 overs and the Test cricket, which is the real stuff.
Yes. Claudius, Terry, thank you so much for being here on Newsmaker Live. Just before we close, though, on the Law Factor Live tomorrow, why are there so many professional but single women in St. Lucia, Terry? Is it because men would like women with strong characters, or do men think professional women aren't feminine? Join Delia and her guests, Tekla Fitz and Earl Busquet, on DBS 8 p.m. tomorrow for The Law Factor Live. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good one. Why are so many professional women single? I wouldn't be able to tell you. So Delia probably will be able to answer
I should be a guest on that one too.
Terry, you'd be a good candidate for a guest. Well, on behalf of my entire team, thank you very much for being part of Newsmaker Live this evening. Those of you who called, those of you who tried. Join us again next week at the same time for another program. But before then, I'll be here on Saturday night, God willing, for the Press Club. So join me then. Until that time, I'm Clinton Reynolds. Have a good night.